A very tall son named Barron. Has anyone ever heard of him?
Barron Trump towers over everyone. But that's not what made the internet lose their minds. In October 2024, photos surfaced of him with a mystery woman. But that's not what made people on the internet go crazy. In October 2024, pictures came out of him with an unknown woman. Some said she was a Czech model. Royal family. Then his dad dropped a surprise. I don't think he's had a boyfriend yet. So who was the woman? Why did major news outlets run the story? All of her pictures at once. Get rid of the truth about Barron's love life is stranger than anyone thought it would be. It all began with a shock only 6 months ago. After their over-the-top Palm Beach party, Trump's wedding, Melania told him she was expecting, and it was August 2005. She had just walked in the door when he heard the news. His total surprise, not because he didn't want to, he had kids, but because it happened so fast. He later said, he always thought, Melania just hasn't had kids yet. Donald already had 4 kids at age 59. Donald Jr. was 28 years old, Ivanka was 24, and Eric was 22 years old, and Tiffany was 12 years old. When the age gaps between siblings opened up would last between 13 and almost 30 years. Barron would grow up a lot like an only child, so the name Barron was given to it. Wasn't picked at random. For many years Trump made up the name John Barron. He used it too when he talked to the media to get himself noticed, avoid scandals, and even report that he lied about how much money he had. That calls from Barron came so often in 1990, it became a joke among his friends. They finally said under oath that yes, on often, he used the name, so when he named his son Barron, it wasn't just the name, it was a tribute to the alter ego he made to sound better, stronger and tougher. Now that the persona was no longer made up, it had William Trump was on track to become a family Barron. He was born on March 20, 2006, at 5:10 a.m. 8 pounds 7 ounces, and in 20 minutes Donald was already on TV telling people about the news. I have kids and stay young. He boasted that he wasn't even in the delivery. He said it would be easier on the room if he stayed out. Melania had to give birth to her first child by herself. He still told the cameras that Donald knew the mother and child were both beautiful. And Barron walked right into the part baby part world part press release. But Barron wasn't just rich, he worked hard to get that way. Was born into a bubble when he was young. Were spent in the Trump Tower. The penthouse is almost 11,000 square feet over 3 floors, and one of them was he had his own kitchen and bathroom. Living room, or even a private room for a babysitter. It wasn't a nursery, it was a small room for kids. A lot of gifts for the high-class apartment honors that Ellen DeGeneres gave him as a royal: a gold stroller for babies with a crystal Catherine will. Barbara Walters sent a Gayle King added a big green stuffed dog. Barron was riding around by the time he was 4 years old in a toy Mercedes that said his name on it. In front of his window in Central Park stretched down, and below the elevator his cultural world was his dad's office. Was just as strange that Melania was born in Spain made sure Barron spoke to her. His first language by age 4, he had a Larry King has a clear Slovenian accent. Live, even the host saw that, he has an tone, Larry said, and Melania nodded. Spends most of his time with me. Barron was already very good at 3. Donald said that he was the smart, he wasn't just rich. He was born abroad and raised in a penthouse, being surrounded by people speaking in 3 tongues by a group of adults. When he was a child, Melanie didn't just keep an eye on him, she took care of everything, and she called him Mini Trump for more than just his looks because of how she dressed him up in suits. Said he liked sweatpants but didn't wear them. Ties. He liked being like her dad. Made him finish the school year at Columbia Grammar in New York City before relocating to the White House, even though meant millions of dollars in extra safety. She didn't want to mess up his life, and careful to shape that world. She made the rules, she picked the teachers, she picked her son would be great with her friend's son, who would become president. Started to echo his dad in ways that felt almost strangely. He was swinging a golf club when he was 5 years old. Building things and going to clubs. She said he liked to build and knock it down. Down and then back up, it sounded just right. Like Donald, Even the way he talks matched on 2024 election night when Barron spoke in public, everyone was shocked. He even looked a lot like his dad. Used the same words, "That's cool," he said, the voiceover and over the it was all there, the confidence, the style. During a dinner at maybe Mar-a-Lago, Barron told a joke. A silver spoon. Barron was brought up. Who would ever eat food with it wasn't a silver spoon, it was gold. He wasn't joking, he was serious. That was his regular school had the same kinds of rules. It was Barron who went to Columbia Grammar, one of some of the best private schools in New York. School cost more than $40,000 a year, but it wasn't just the classes about the business kids of billionaires, stars and future power players, and Barron did something that no one else did in 2017. 11-year-old boy set up a full A-class trip to the White House in the 1980s. Students went on trips with the Secret Service. The escort stayed in hotels in Washington, got a private tour. They met he ate lunch with his dad in the White House, where they heard a speech about how to reach their full potential was a memory that no one else could make. But for Barron, it was just how he was. Himself. And then there's the twist: Barron became an uncle, which no one saw coming. When he was a baby, his niece Kai was born in May 2007. Almost a year ago anyway, he was her uncle after all. However, they were peers today. Barron is 18 years old and Kai is 17 years old. They are the same age, but she is his niece. What do you do when your siblings turn 13 to 29 years older than you? You're the uncle and the baby. It's a family tree. That goes around and around. When Donald Trump took office in January 2017. A lot of people thought his family would get into the White House right away, but the First Lady and Barron Trump didn't. They stayed in New York City for almost 5 months so Barron could finish his time in school at Columbia Grammar, and on paper, it looks like a Manhattan prep school. It seemed like an easy personal decision, but it really led to a huge amount of criticism and came with prices that are hard to believe. From January 20th to June 11th, 2017. Melania and Barron stayed at Trump Tower. The daily fee for the NYPD to keep them safe was between $127,000 and $146,000, and those were just local police. The Secret Service asked for an extra $60 million in funding just people were to keep the family safe. More than 500,000 angry people signed a petition asking Melania to move to the White House home or pay for her own safety. They said taxpayers were being made to pay for a personal choice that did nothing good for the country. And in just those few months, Melania's travel costs were more than $700,000. That was almost twice as much as Michelle in a whole year. Obama spent so many people were against it that it became one of the first big trouble spots of when Trump finally took office. Barron signed up for a new school in Maryland, caused more trouble. He didn't go to the one that had Sidwell Friends School, educated all of the president's children since he joined St. Andrews instead in 1986. Episcopal school in PTOAC, it was a big deal. Instead of following the norm, St. Andrews had never had a presidential child stay before. The school was about 20 miles away from White House and only 580 students. The class sizes were small, and the ratio of students to volunteers was a 7-to-1. The cost of tuition $38,890. Meghan Markle praised the schools a diverse community and school excellence, but the change made major problems with logistics that the Secret Service to change the school's daily things being done to keep Barron safe. The White House tried to keep the news from getting out to avoid protests, but word got out that had to say it in May, months ahead of time. They had planned to meet on June 11, 2017. Barron moved into the White House at that time, made history by being the first Trump's son has lived there since John F. Kennedy Jr. in 1963, a full 54 a few years ago, when he was only 11. Put their name in the running for president. Children who lived at the White House, but not many sons. The last boy, Charles, was too young to live there. Taft too in 1908, when the Barron was there. Brought something new to the White House. Something that hasn't been seen in decades, and he stayed until January 2021. He had grown a lot by then. When he was in college, he was 6 feet 7 inches tall. Often stood taller than everyone else during public events that make it impossible for him to miss. Barron was even when he was young going to take part in major white. Most of his fame came from house events. It looked like the Easter egg roll-in in April 2017. More than 21,000 people. Barron was there and stood on the Truman balcony with his parents and let out a loud blow the whistle to turn on. The cameras caught him signing military cards, members, and talking to guests during the Thanksgiving turkey pardon. He stood for next to his dad as turkeys named the Drumstick and Wishbone were not hurt. He showed up with Melania for Christmas as a horse-drawn wagon brought in a huge 19 an Army band from Fort Fraser called Fir Tree played, and cameras caught every move. Despite the stress, Barron stayed calm. Wearing a black suit and a white shirt, he didn't show up in public very often, so these things stood out, but what really getting people to talk was his height. By the time he was 18, Barron was between 67–69 inches tall, which is taller than his 6.3-inch father. Some even said his 5 feet 11 inches mother. He was still getting taller, which put him in the same range as NBA stars. LeBron James was pictured at his grandmother's house. The funeral stood tall over the whole family. The pictures got a lot of attention. Trump was shocked and had a theory. He said Barron grew tall by eating only his grandmother Melania's food. Amalia Kavs, the mother, lived with the family and made traditional Slovene meals. Trump said, "Boy, did she take care of things a lot." Of Barron, "That's how he grew so tall, only ate her food." It sounded like a nice family story, but he told it so it was talked about so much that it became public picture. Amalia didn't just feed him, raised him and taught him Slovene and even helped him become Swede. Being a citizen for Trump, her cooking wasn't just taking care of, it was the key to Barron's huge size that makes him look very tall. A lot of people thought Barron would play basketball, but he didn't because he liked soccer. Trump, he often joked that he tried to help Barron to choose basketball, but Barron, "I told them, you're going to." Trump once said, "Be a basketball player," and he says, "Dad, I like soccer." Barron is taller than Michael Jordan. Pick a sport where your height can help you. Even though it might be a disadvantage, he made observers at work said he looked a lot like Peter. This is Crouch, the famously tall English striker. The way Barron played showed a lot of skill. Even though his was an extra challenge that he reached during his time in Washington. Barron joined the DC United Academy. Wasn't just a normal thing to do after school. This was a professional-level young person's show. While living in the White House, he worked out hard and played as a Wayne Rooney was a midfielder at the time. Trump asked him to play for DC United. Rooney and his wife Colleen to the White House and asked Rooney to help train them. Barron, that visit made a lot of news, especially after Colleen told a weird story about something Trump said in public to Barron during the meeting. But for Barron, he was living his dream, getting to play the sport he loved in his heart of Washington while living in the well-known American house, and he even wore an Arsenal shirt to casual games on the in January 2021, the White House lawn. Barron, Trump's whole life changed. Was only 14 years old when his family, the White House, was closed down and everyone left, giving up political power to get private. Their new, fancy home, Mar-a-Go, is on 17 acres. House in Palm Beach, and it wasn't just any. The building had 126 rooms and 33 bathrooms, 3 bunkers, a golf course, and a spa. It has tennis courts and its own beach. In 1985, Donald Trump bought it. It was part home for $10 million now. A private club with 500 members in part, and there was nothing in the middle of it all. Getting used to a strange new world. There are politicians, socialites, and constant. He also had to leave behind media noise. The Washington school and friends he used to go to DC is beginning a new era. Far from by August 2021, Barron was used to the halls going to a new school. Oxbridge Academy was a small Catholic school with only $520 students, and it cost $34,800 a year and is only 15 minutes from Mar-a-Lago. It went well with the Trump family's new way of life. The school had belonged to the wealthy William Coe, whose family had strong ties to the government that probably led to Barron's admission easier. Even though the school is strict process that needed essays, report cards and letters from teachers at Oxford, students could study core subjects, things and languages like Spanish, French, Chinese, or even sign Language. The second-year Barron had come from St. Andrews in Maryland, where school fees had been even more than $45,000 and $47,000 every year. This new school said privacy and top-notch academics, but it would quickly become one of the most well-protected high schools in the country after Barron signed up for the Secret Service stepped in and the school had never seen anything like it. Agents stood outside of school. People followed him to the bathroom and were there every day. Staff had to sign a code of silence. Metal detectors were agreed upon, installed, and surveillance stepped it up. It wasn't just quiet safety that changed. The way that the school worked, in one in which a nearby 911 call led to a full agents rushed into the school lockdown rooms, classrooms, showing how serious it is. The situation with Barron's safety was the government tried to make it look like normal, that agents are always there, became a normal part of life at Oxbridge even with all that stress. Barron, so he signed up with the name Jack to stay out of sight. Even though everyone knew who he really was, he never ate in the wait in the cafeteria. Instead of going home to Mar-a-Lago for meals, still peers, they said he was sharp and focused. Really did well in honors. Science, he had good grades and could do well in talks. He seemed to be able to handle the put pressure on academics, media, and security all at even with everything going on. He built a reputation as a student who stands out, subsequently helped him get into a number of top schools. But as he getting ready for college, an unexpected storm hit in August 2024. A person on social media called Mr. Weeks by his real name, Danny Weeks, put up a picture that they said showed he told the young Barron in Central Park that he'd child care worker for a family. I knew the Trumps and Barron often as a child. He then made a stupid claim that Barron killed 3 rabbits, 3 birds, and 1 dog. The internet went crazy. One post got over 19 million views, and it wasn't just the Trumps anymore. It was a viral firestorm targeting a teen. The most upsetting, the claim came soon after Mr. Weeks said he saw Barron hit his mother-in-law in the face. He didn't just talk about Central Park. He told the story over and over again. Several posts with more information in each. One time he said the event took place after he said he had been to school because of his work with kids who went to the same school as Barron. The charge was rough and specific, and highly angry social media sites took it and ran with it, and things got worse. Mr. Weeks said Barron had hurt someone with a knife more than once. It seemed like there had been investigations seeing Barron touch other boys acting badly during sleepovers. He said that Barron had switched desks and even hit and spit on people in class. Attacked Trump during a Christmas party. Show that each story got darker after that. Some people began to call it out as fake, but the damage had already been done. The internet picked up on it, and the claims kept spreading, and soon people started to dig into Mr. Weeks himself. Who was this man? Who say they have access to the online users of the Trump family tried to check his background, and they found no license, no daycare, and no professional. There is no record that he was ever a therapist or nanny. It all began to each new claim seemed to look sketchy. Wilder than the last one, who didn't have credentials or real proof. Many people started to think that the whole story was made up. Maybe to get attention or push a Barron, on the other hand, had a political agenda. Trump said, "We have to make some real decisions." Newspaper reporters that his son had been accepted a number of colleges. He said Barron was very popular and had a high skill. He even talked about Wharton, the business school at the School of PA, where he had lived before studied. But rumors began to spread. There were posts online that said schools like Stanford, Harvard, and Columbia all had turned down Barron. Some said no amount of Trump's cash could get him in. Fact checkers couldn't make any of it true, but there was a lot of talk going around. Barron chose New York in the end. Stern School of Business at New York University was a big change from what the family always did. The Trump kids had gone to. Next time, Barron, choose Wharton or Georgetown. Donald Trump said he went his own way. We didn't do, came as a surprise. That we picked Stern. The choice strange for another reason. Trump had been criticizing New York in public, city saying it's a city on the decline, but Barron was in the city and getting ready to plan his own path through college. Wouldn't be like anyone else's. Instead of moving into a dorm, Barron stayed at Trump Tower. He would get to NYU by a local businessman who skipped the most dorm rooms and student lounges. First years know that Melania backed the choice in an interview on TV. she said it was her choice, and I respect that. Liked how kind and smart he was independence, but he said his life was not like other teens while his classmates placed an order for pizza in their Barron Road elevators in a golden tall building. There was also talk that Melania could go with him wherever he goes. Went to college, she kept Barron out of the public eye to keep angry at him. Some people wondered if her several things influenced his choice to, if he went to, stay in New York. She might have had to go to another city. It wasn't easy for A to move either. Secret Service agents all around, a family keeping agents, and political tension in place. It let Barron solve a lot of problems. Melanie, study in peace, stay close, and the family stay out of even more news stories about. On July 9, 2024, everything changed for Barron Trump. He was 18 years old, and just graduated from high school. That night at the Doral for his dad's rally, a golf course in Florida owned by Donald Trump, told everyone about his youngest son. It was Barron's first job in politics. His best look ever as he stood up, pumped his fist and waved, and the crowd went crazy. The cheers didn't end, they turned into most prolonged and loudest cheers of during the whole rally. Trump looked shocked. They laughed and joked that Barron might be more well-known than his brothers Eric and Don. At that one moment, pictures on tens of thousands of phones went viral within hours. Of a sudden, Barron Trump wasn't just the quietest kid anymore, son. He was becoming well-known, and interested in what went on behind the scenes. There was something even stranger that happening. Barron wasn't just their events, he was helping to shape them. Became a key figure in one of the most daring campaign plans of 2024. Where the insiders say this is the podcast playbook. Trump would ask, "Have you talked about this over with Barron?" Before showing up on any podcast that his son liked. Was Trump had to use that strategy to win. There are shows like Joe Rogan, Logan Paul, and a live stream with Aiden Ross that went viral. Almost 600,000 people watched live. Barron thought about something very political. He told his staff,